This is Seahawks Today. I am your host, Will Ortner, and we have to do something that I was really apprehensive about. I did not want to do this video, but I would be not a very good host if I didn't do it. And that, of course, is today we're going to go through 5 different surprising candidates that the Seattle Seahawks could end up cutting this off season. And I don't really feel good about it because I never want to talk about someone losing their job because I wouldn't want someone to talk about me losing my job. When you say hurtful things like that in the comment section, it does hurt my feelings. I want all of these players to stay. Let me be clear. I want them all to stay in Seattle. But we do have to look at some different players that could potentially not be in Seattle next season because financially it makes the most sense for the Seahawks to move on from them. Before we get into any of that, sound off in the comment section right now. Which player is on the Seahawks roster that you want to make sure is still on the roster in 2026? Let me know who that player is down below in the comment section. It can be anyone who is on the offense, defense, or special teams. Make sure that you let me know down below. The first player that we have to talk about right now in this video that could potentially be cut is kicker Jason Myers. And now you might hear that name, you might see his face on there and say, Will, you are an insane person. Jason Myers just set the record in the entire National Football League for the most amount of points scored in a single season. No one has scored more points than Jason Myers did this year. But unfortunately, Myers is one of the most expensive kickers in the National Football League, which would make sense why the Seahawks could potentially want to move on from him. He's also a player who is a little bit long in the tooth. He's getting a little bit older. Could the Seahawks look at the draft and say, hey, there's a kicking target that we could go after, we could sign, and we're going to pay them bottom dollar while still taking care of that special teams? It is important to note the Seahawks do spend a lot more money on their special teams than most teams because they clearly view that as a very integral part of the game, which I do think is a reason why the Seahawks ended up winning the Super Bowl. Here's what Enzo Flojo had to say of ClutchPoints on why Seattle may move on from Jason Myers. The contract reality is this. Myers carries a 2026 cap hit of around $7.2 million. Releasing him would save roughly $5.35 million. That figure can fund rotational offensive line help or depth in the secondary. There is also an age curve to consider. Entering his age 35 season, Myers remains accurate. Of course, kickers historically face rapid performance cliffs. Unfortunately, I could potentially see Seattle moving on from Myers. Remember, this similar thing kind of happened at that punting position when we had John Ryan, and then all of a sudden it was very quickly move on from Ryan and go into the draft and get Michael Dixon. And that was clearly the smart move by the Seahawks. Dixon has been fantastic since he entered Seattle. Don't be shocked if you do see the Seahawks potentially move on from Myers just because, well, simply they might be able to find a cheaper option. Next person that we have to talk about as a potential cut candidate might not surprise a ton of people, but I found this one surprising, at least to myself, and that, of course, is backup quarterback Drew Lock. Now, you might be saying to yourself, Will, why would the Seattle Seahawks potentially cut Drew Lock? Well, because when you look at the backup quarterback position right now, Sam Darnold has clearly earned himself that number 1 spot. I think there is a potential if Jalen Milroe has gone out and really impressed everyone else on this Seahawks staff, it might be time for him to become the backup QB. We just saw what Drew Lock's stat line was this year, and it really wasn't there. He's also a guy that is going to be a career backup kind of the rest of the way. I do not believe that he will have kind of a Sam Darnold path. So when you look at Drew Lock, it might make sense if you trust the younger guy to perform better and to perform at a higher level to maybe give him that opportunity to do so. When I look at Drew Lock, I think that he is a quality guy in the locker room, but to sit here and say that the Seahawks need to make sure that they keep their hands on him, I think that's a little bit crazy. We have 3 more surprise cut candidates that the Seahawks could go through. And to be honest with you, the last one, to me, is really the most shocking and the most scary. Before we go into any of those cut candidates, though, I need to let you know about this sweet gear that we have over on chatsports.com/Seahawks60. We got the Mob Champ collection. We got the champion right here. It's always been the mission over all the other BS. It's a sweet design. Of course, we've got the t-shirt in the black and in the navy as well. And here's the thing. I know a lot of you girls, it's cold outside. You're saying, hey, I don't want a t-shirt, Will. Well, guess what? we also have the hoodies. Men, you can wear hoodies too. Being cold is okay. They're sweet. They're stylish. Thinking about grabbing myself one, super comfy. And if you look at yourself and you say, Will, that design, it's pretty cool, but it's not whimsical enough for me. Guess what? We've also got the mascot version of this as well. In the mob ties, the thing looks freaking sweet. Of course, we got the t-shirt in the black and in the navy. Guess what? We've got hoodies for that design as well. If you want to go and find out where you can grab this stuff in the comment section and description of today's video, we have that link. All you got to do, go in, click it. It'll take you right to where you need to be, and you can go and grab yourself some merch. The thing is freaking sweet. And if you go in and you grab some Mob Mentality merch, we're going to make sure that we give you a shout out in a future video. Thank you guys for going to do that. Back to our cut candidates. Who could potentially be the next cut casualty for the Seattle Seahawks? And unfortunately, this one actually really pains me because I do think he was the heartbeat of this team and was a sole important member of this squad. And that, unfortunately, is Jarran Reed, defensive tackle for the Seahawks squad. Now, when you look at the season that Reed had, it was a decent season for an interior defensive lineman. He's the type of player that really puts it all out on the line for this squad. Ended up having 31 total tackles, got to the quarterback a couple of times, had some TFLs. Obviously, the numbers are down because he was on IR for a certain amount of time dealing with that wrist injury, unfortunately, for Reed. Now, when you look at a player like Reed, age can be a factor in this decision. While Reed doesn't have the biggest dead cap space or the biggest salary in that defensive line room, or frankly, in any of the big older players, when you look at a guy like Reed, he is an older player. There is a very small shelf life when it comes to interior defensive linemen, and the Seahawks have a lot of really good defensive linemen that are young. In my eyes, Riley Mills is very quickly going to earn himself a lot of playing time with this squad. So could the Seahawks see this as an opportunity to move on from a guy like Reed if they're not able to make a trade and potentially open up some more space for a guy like Riley Reed to come in and make more big plays? Another guy that I do feel really bad if he ended up leaving, and a guy that I honestly want to see stay in Seattle. Unfortunately, on every list that I basically ran through while I was doing some of my research, Uchenna Nwosu as a cut candidate for this Seahawks squad. Now, cutting Nwosu, this would be more so of a salary cap space clearer. Nwosu would be able, if he was moved on from with the Seahawks, he'd save the Seahawks a lot of money, over $10 million potentially, and that can be used to go and grab a multitude of different players. When you look at the last 4 seasons for Nwosu, you can tell that when he is healthy, he's one of the best players at that edge rush position in the National Football League. He does a great job of getting to the quarterback. He does a great job of getting a lot of tackles, making a lot of big plays, but he hasn't been healthy for a large portion of this year. Luckily, this year he stayed a lot healthier, but even this year, in a year where he played a lot more, you can tell between that 2022 season and the 2025 season that his numbers do drop a little bit. So not only is Nwosu a little bit of an older player for the Seattle Seahawks at that edge position, he's also a very expensive player at that edge position. And so to me, the Seahawks could potentially move on from Nwosu, cutting him, and freeing up space to re-sign Boye Mafe, a younger player, a guy who's had a lot of success, but obviously this year took a backseat to a guy like Uchenna Nwosu. In fact, not like, he did take a backseat to Uchenna Nwosu. So could the Seahawks move on from Nwosu so that way they can hold on to Boye Mafe? In my personal opinion, I think that one of those guys will still be on Seattle's roster next year. It'll either be Mafe or it'll be Nwosu. You will not see both guys in Seattle, barring one of them taking a massive, massive pay cut. So it'll be interesting to see what the Seahawks end up deciding to do. If they let Boye Mafe walk, that means they're clearly going to stick with Uchenna Nwosu, and if they cut Uchenna Nwosu, it seems clear to me that they're going to find a way to pay Boye Mafe. Make sure that you hit that subscribe button. The minute that the Seahawks make any roster moves, we're going to make sure that we get that content out to you. You don't want to miss any of the big news surrounding the Seattle Seahawks. We're not going to let you miss any of that big news, so make sure that you come on in and hit that sub button. I've been dragging my feet. I've been trying to avoid this one. I've been trying not to put this one out there into the universe, into the ether. In my mind, this man, not individually made this defense go, but he was the heartbeat. He was the soul. He was the man that was on the mission for this squad. DeMarcus Lawrence, he called his shot. He said that he was leaving Dallas because he knew he couldn't win a Super Bowl there, and he was coming to Seattle because he knew he could win a Super Bowl here. And the dude freaking did it. It's clear to me. I know that he's on the wrong side of 30. DeMarcus Lawrence is a damn good player and still a really good player that can do a lot of things for this Seahawks team. But unfortunately for DeMarcus Lawrence, he is an older player. And when you look at the production that he's had, this year was almost like drinking from the fountain of youth. Now, obviously, Lawrence's production was much greater this year than the previous 2 years and was almost on par with that year that he had in 2022. But here's where the issue is for a lot of teams: what he costs versus the amount of snaps that he's going to get. Mike Macdonald does a great job of rotating his players through so that way they stay fresh and they're able to be at their best when they are on the field. The problem with that rotation and staying fresh and being at your best while you're on the field, well, that means that your snap share goes down. And so there's a lot of teams that are going to look at a guy like DeMarcus Lawrence and say, well, should I pay him what I'm paying him if he's only going to play this % of the time? I'd be furious if Seattle moved on from DeMarcus Lawrence. I believe that he still has a vital role on this team. He's still a quality player. He gets after the passer well. He stops the run, and he creates havoc. He creates a ton of turnovers. He is the epitome of what Mike Macdonald wants this defense to be. A guy that's playing with his hair on fire, hustling around, and makes big-time plays. So when I saw him on a couple of these lists when I was doing my research, I was furious, and I would be furious if Seattle moved on from him. But I cannot come onto this channel and tell you that the Seahawks have cut candidates and not mention DeMarcus Lawrence. In my eyes, he has to still be in Seattle. I don't know how you make that happen, but John Schneider better frickin' make it happen. Let me know down below in the comment section, if you had to predict it, and be nice when you do, who do you think was on the Seahawks Super Bowl roster that will no longer be on the roster in 2026? Let me know down below in the comment section. Name a player. Name a couple of players, however many you want to name. Make sure that you go down, though, and do it in the comment section. Thank you guys so much for viewing today's video. We always have a lot of fun hanging out with y'all. Hopefully, you guys are having a safe and wonderful time going out and doing whatever you're doing on this wonderful day. Thank you guys so much for viewing today's video, and I can't wait to see you guys next time.